Good morning, it's May 1st, and this is To My Liberal Friends. Is the media biased toward liberals and Democrats in general? Well, that's a question that many conservatives have not only been asking, but blatantly claiming for many years. It's a problem that is now out in the open, and the evidence is showing that what conservatives and Republicans feared may in fact be true. By now, we've all heard about the essay written by Uri Berliner, a career journalist at National Public Radio, who outed the NPR editorial and newsroom as having a decidedly liberal bias. According to Berliner, those rooms were filled with registered Democrats, and he said he could no longer sit back and accept the bias, even though he himself is a liberal Democrat, without making the point there needs to be a more balanced ideological coverage. Of course, the management team at NPR disputed this allegation, but if you go back and look at their coverage of issues, the bias jumps out at you. They had Adam Schiff on repeatedly as he falsely claimed that he had conclusive proof of Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. Proof that their journalists at NPR never demanded he offer up. They ignored the Hunter Biden laptop story and accepted again the false claim that it was Russian disinformation. And on it went at NPR. With Biden's numbers continuing to circle the drain, both the president and his team have repeatedly called for the media to get out their message. They're so used to the media fawning over them and supporting them, they cannot understand why they're not doing their bidding this time around. This week, the New York Times called out the administration for not making Joe Biden available for interviews. He had done fewer of these live events than any recent previous president. His team prefers to schedule interviews where they can control the environment and the questions. They want softball questions that Biden can easily answer and not push back if the answers are not on point. They want him to be able to refer to his note cards and look at the directions he's given. Well, this week, former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi appeared on MSNBC, where she could normally expect a friendly environment. Pelosi began her praise of the Biden administration and asserted that Biden had created more jobs than any president in recent history, with 9 million of them coming during his first term. When the host, Katie Tur, correctly pointed out that many of those jobs had been lost due to the COVID pandemic and were simply returning as the pandemic ended, Pelosi became visibly agitated and angry. She accused Ms. Tur of being an apologist for Donald Trump. Have any of you ever seen any person on MSNBC become an apologist or a supporter for Donald Trump? But this was not something that Pelosi expected on the most liberal news network, and she didn't like it. The facts are that what Katie Tur was stating was true. We lost millions of jobs, not due to any policy of the Trump administration, but because of the shutdowns and restrictions being issued by Anthony Fauci and his crew at NIH. It's only logical to realize that over time, these businesses would reopen and jobs come back. But Pelosi, another of the geriatrics in Congress, didn't seem to understand how that works. Now, Joe Biden did appear with Howard Stern for some light banter, but even in that setting, he bemoaned that he was not getting the coverage he felt he deserved. In that, quote, interview, Biden said he thinks the press is afraid to go after Trump, and he did not understand that. Guess what? He said, the free press is not speaking up as much as it used to. I haven't figured it out yet. No surprise there, but I think it's coming around. And I'm not blaming the press. I'm just saying I think some of them are worried about attacking him, worried about taking him on, end quote. Stern, being the obedient lapdog, quickly agreed. The White House has taken a new tactic in the campaign. And as I said, in his first 2.5 years as president, Biden has held fewer news conferences than his predecessors. He's given fewer interviews to major news organizations, despite his promise to restore traditional press relations after the Trump era. But what they're doing is having Biden do interviews with so-called influencers. I love this. TikToker Daniel Mack has attracted more than 14 million followers in 2 years by asking drivers of fancy cars, what do you do for a living? He's interviewed Cheech and Chong in an Impala, Jay Leno in a Maserati, and other celebrities in their own swanky rides. His most popular subject yet, President Biden. As Biden pulled up in a Cadillac Lyrique at last year's Detroit Auto Show for a prearranged exchange, Mack observed that, quote, your car's awesome, and asked what Biden does for a living. Biden says, I'm married to Joe Biden, and I make sure we're making a lot more electric vehicles in America. Talk about setting up an interview. And this has become a trend that the White House prefers to have the president talk to these influencers on social media while he avoids real journalists who might ask him some tough questions he might stumble on without a prepared text in front of him. In the aforementioned back and forth with Daniel Mack, the White House press officer made it clear that Biden wanted the video to emphasize what his administration had done to get more EVs on the road. That sort of instruction is an anathema to traditional news organizations. In a Gallup poll from last year, they found that only a third, 32% of Americans trust the mass media, including radio, TV, and newspapers, a great deal, or a fair amount. This is a precipitous fall from a peak of 72% a generation ago. And Democrats at 58% are far more willing to say they trust the media to be fair and accurate, and Republicans just 11%. Those numbers are not surprising since the media has tilted to the left over the past couple of decades to a point where they have become shills for the Democratic Party. George Stephanopoulos, the former Clinton aide and now an ABC commentator posing as a journalist, took the bait from the White House. He went into a 5-minute diatribe about how the media cannot treat this election in a normal way. He basically was saying they have to go after Trump and ensure he does not win. Now, is this journalism? Is this the policy of ABC, the same network that produces the ludicrous show The View, where 3 ultra-liberal women gang up on one so-called conservative who's not really that conservative? It's no wonder the public no longer has any trust in the media to deliver unbiased news. I think we all would welcome, those of us my age, someone like Walter Cronkite, who viewed his job as delivering the news and not trying to skew it or influence us in how to think. I think those days are probably long gone. It's been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.